predator becomes prey in the Florida Everglades as hundreds of hunters descend on the Sunshine State to catch and kill as many Burmese pythons as possible.
Most people think the Everglades is just a swamp full of alligators. But look closer. There is a war happening in the tall grass. For many years, we have been losing ground to an invader that eats everything in sight. We thought we knew the size of the problem. We thought we knew how many were out there. We were wrong. It took a huge raging fire to show us the truth. When the grass burned away, it did not just show snakes. It showed a land that has been changed forever by a monster we made. And the numbers are terrifying. The scorched earth truth. The air in the Everglades does not just feel hot. It feels heavy. It sticks to your skin. But on this December morning in 2025, the heat is coming from somewhere else. A crew from the Florida Forest Service is walking along the edge of a sawgrass prairie. They are carrying drip torches. These are small metal cans with a loop on the end. They are dripping diesel and gasoline. They are not putting out a fire. They are starting one. In just minutes, the calm marsh changes. A line of fire, bright orange and angry, starts eating its way through the dry plants. The sound is like 1,000 pieces of paper crumpling all at once. A loud crackle drowns out the buzzing insects. Smoke rises up, turning the blue Florida sky into a hazy gray ceiling. To a stranger, this looks like destruction. It looks like a disaster. But here is the twist. This is actually medicine. For thousands of years, this land burned on its own. Lightning would hit the ground, and the fire would clear out the old dead brush. It would put nutrients back into the soil. It would stop the trees from taking over the grassy rivers. The Everglades was built to burn. But lately, these fires have taken on a new, darker purpose. They have become a weapon in a war against a ghost. As the wall of fire moves forward, pushed by a steady wind, the ground in front of it starts to come alive. You see the usual ones first. Grasshoppers jump around in panic. Birds swoop down to catch fleeing insects. Marsh rabbits, the few that are left, run for cover. But then you see the motion that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. It is a slow, heavy movement. It pushes the grass aside like a bulldozer. A Burmese python, easily 10 feet long, is forced out of its hiding spot. For the first time in its life, it cannot rely on its camouflage. The pattern on its skin, which makes it look exactly like shadows and light on the water, is useless against a background of burnt black dirt and bright orange flame. The snake is exposed. In April 2025, during a burn in Palm Beach County, the ground team saw this happen in real time. They watched as the fire stripped away the cover, and suddenly the ground seemed to be moving with snakes. It was a moment that proved everyone's worst fears. The infestation was not just bad. It was everywhere. You have to understand the size of this. We are talking about thousands of acres of land. When the grass is high, you could hide a school bus in there and no one would see it. Now, imagine trying to find a snake that does not want to be found. It is almost impossible, but fire changes the hunt. Reports from the field are shocking. In one case, a hunter watched as the smoke cleared to show a 12-footer trying to run for a canal. In another case, the heat flushed out a female sitting on a nest, showing a clutch of eggs that would have turned into 50 new predators by the summer. This is the truth of the burn. It is violent, it is loud, and it is very effective. It turns the python's greatest strength, their ability to vanish, into their biggest weakness. They have to move, and when they move, we can finally see them. But it is not just about seeing them. It is about understanding how they have changed the land. When the fire burns away the grass, it shows a marsh that is eerily empty of other life. The raccoons are gone. The foxes are missing. The possums have vanished. The wading birds that used to gather in huge flocks along the shallow pools are reduced to scattered handfuls. The tree islands that once held nesting colonies sit empty and overgrown. The fire shows the pythons. Yes, but it also shows the crime scene. It shows us a world where the only thing left alive is the monster. The emptiness is visible once the grass is gone. You can see it in the lack of tracks in the mud, the lack of burrows along the canal edges, the lack of any movement at all in places that should be full of life. The burn does not just show the predator. It shows the size of the killing the silent invasion. To understand why we have to burn the swamp, we have to look at how we lost it in the first place. It did not happen overnight. It was a slow, creeping disaster that started with good intentions and ended with an environmental nightmare. It all goes back to the pet trade. In the 1980s and 1990s, Miami was the capital of exotic pets. People wanted something cool, something dangerous. They bought baby Burmese pythons. At 20 inches long, they are cute. They curl around your arm. They are easy to hold. But here's the thing about pythons. They never stop growing. That cute baby snake turns into a 6-foot snake in a year. Then 8 feet, then 10. Suddenly, you have a predator the size of a telephone pole living in a glass tank in your living room. It eats rabbits. It looks at your cat with hungry eyes. And it costs a lot of money to feed. So, what did people do? They drove out to the edge of the swamp, opened the tank, and let them go. They thought they were giving the animal a chance at freedom. They did not realize they were releasing a biological weapon. One snake here, another there. It seemed harmless at the time, but each released python was a seed planted in exactly the right place. Warm water, lots of prey, no competition, no enemies. The perfect home for an invasion that nobody saw coming until it was much too late to stop. Then came Hurricane Andrew in 1992. This was the turning point. The storm slammed into South Florida like a bomb. It smashed open breeding facilities, pet shops, and zoos. Many pythons were thrown into the wild all at once. It was a mass escape, and the Everglades was the perfect hideout. It is warm. It is wet. And it was basically an all-you-can-eat buffet. The pythons found paradise. They had no natural enemies. Nothing in Florida had ever dealt with a 20-foot constrictor before. The alligators put up a fight, sure, but a full-grown python can eat an alligator. We have seen the photos. We have seen the burst-open bodies of pythons that try to swallow a whole gator. It is a clash of giants, but the snakes have the numbers. And unlike the alligator, which stays in one spot and guards its area, the python moves around a lot. It covers ground. It moves through the marsh like a slow, careful search pattern, eating everything in its path, and then moving to the next spot. The alligator guards one pond. The python empties it. For years, nobody noticed. That is the scary part. The invasion was quiet. Pythons hide and wait. They do not chase you down. They wait. They curl up in the water, holding their breath for 30 minutes at a time. They blend into the roots and the mud. They are ghosts. By the time we realized there was a problem, it was already too late. The numbers are the kind that keep scientists awake at night. In some areas of the Everglades, the marsh rabbit population has dropped by 99%. Think about that. 99% gone. Raccoons dropped by 99%. Possums dropped by 99%. Bobcat numbers falling fast. The swamp used to be noisy. If you went out there 20 years ago, you would hear rustling in the bushes. You would see eyes shining in your flashlight beam. Now, in the heart of the python areas, it is silent. The only thing you hear is the wind and the mosquitoes. The mammals are gone. They have all been eaten. The python is a super predator. It makes the whole food web fall apart. It eats the prey that the native predators need. So the Florida panther, which is already endangered, has nothing to eat because the snakes got to the deer first. It is a domino effect, and the blocks are falling fast. And they breed like crazy. A single female can lay up to 100 eggs a year. Even if only a small number survive, the population explodes. We are not dealing with a slow rise. We are dealing with a fast takeover. Models now think there could be anywhere from tens of thousands to over 100,000 pythons out there. But nobody knows for sure, because for every one we see, there are 100 we do not. They have taken over the swamps. They are moving into the mangroves. They have been seen swimming in the ocean, crossing from island to island in the Florida Keys. They are flexible. They are tough to kill. And they are hungry. This is why the burns are so important. We cannot fight an enemy we cannot see. We let them get a 30-year head start. We let them dig in, breed, and take over. Now, we are playing catch-up. And the only way to catch up is to change the battlefield. A firestorm plan. So, how do you burn a swamp without destroying it? It is not that simple. You cannot just walk out there with a box of matches and hope for the best. A planned burn is a science. It is a high-stakes chess game played with fire and wind. The Florida Forest Service and the National Park Service plan these operations months ahead of time. They study weather models, moisture readings, and wind forecasts the way a general studies a battlefield before sending in troops. They have to wait for the perfect moment. If it is too dry, the fire burns too hot. It can destroy the soil. It can kill the big trees that are supposed to live. It can jump past the fire lines and threaten homes, forcing people to leave and turning a planned burn into an emergency. If it is too wet, the fire will not spread. It will just fizzle out, leaving a patchy mess that helps no one. The snakes stay hidden. The thatch stays intact. The money and the workers are wasted. They look for the just right zone. They need specific humidity levels, usually between 30 and 50%. They need the wind blowing in a certain direction at a certain speed to keep the smoke away from highways and hospitals. Too much wind, and the fire moves too fast to control. Too little, and it crawls slowly, burning unevenly and leaving small pockets of unburned cover where the snakes simply wait it out. They target the dry season, usually between December and May. This is when the water levels are low and the grass is ready to burn. In the python hotspots like the Francis S. Taylor Wildlife Management Area or the Big Cypress National Preserve, the plan shifts here. The fire is about being seen. The crews work in teams. They use ATVs, swamp buggies, and even helicopters. Aerial ignition is one of the most intense things you will ever see. A helicopter flies low over the marsh, dropping small plastic balls filled with potassium permanganate. A machine on board injects each ball with glycol just before dropping it. When the balls hit the ground, the chemicals react and burst into flame within 30 seconds. It lets them light up huge areas, thousands of acres in a single afternoon, with precision that ground crews alone could never achieve. From the air, the pilot can see the fire line moving forward, can adjust the drop pattern for wind shifts, and can keep continuous coverage across terrain that would take ground teams days to reach on foot. The fire sweeps through the sawgrass. Sawgrass is tough. It has sharp edges that can cut your skin like a razor, but it burns fast. The fire eats up the dead thatch, the thick layer of brown rotting stuff near the dirt. This thatch is the python's bedroom. It is where they keep their body temperature right. It is where they hide and wait for the few remaining rabbits. When the thatch burns, the cover is gone. Suddenly, the ground is hot. The shade is gone. The humidity drops. Pythons are reptiles. They need their environment to control their body heat. They do not like being out in direct sun on black scorched earth. It forces them to move. It forces them to look for the unburned tree islands or the deep canals. This is the flush. The fire crews and the scientists are working together more than ever. The South Florida Water Management District has added burns to their python removal program. They know that a burn today means better hunting tomorrow. But it is dangerous work. The smoke can make you lose your way. The ground is hard to walk on. You are walking on bumpy limestone rock that is full of holes hidden under mud and ash. One wrong step, and you break an ankle. And now you have to worry about stepping on a ticked-off 12-foot snake that has just been kicked out of its home. The fires are huge. We are talking about projects like the Boundary Burn, covering over 150,000 acres south of US 41. These are not small campfires. These are huge events that change the whole land. And the fire does something else too. It clears out the bad plants that do not belong there, like the melaleuca trees that suck up all the water. It brings back the natural flow of the Everglades. It helps the native grass grow back fresh and green. And guess what likes fresh green grass? Rabbits. It is a trap. The fire clears the land. The new grass grows. The rabbits and rats come back to eat the grass. And the pythons come back to eat the rats. But this time the grass is short. This time we are waiting for them. It is a cycle of destruction and rebirth. But for the python, it is a huge disruption. It breaks their pattern. It forces them to make mistakes. And in the wild, a mistake is deadly. Hunters in the black. Once the smoke clears, the land looks like another planet. It is a world of black and gray. The sawgrass stubble sticks up like burnt toothpicks. The ground is covered in a layer of ash. It smells of carbon and damp earth. This is when the hunters move in. These are not your average hunters. These are the python contractors. Men and women hired by the state to do one thing: remove the invasive snakes. They are tough. They have to be. They spend their nights wading in alligator-filled water, fighting mosquitoes thick enough to breathe in, and wrestling giant constrictors with their bare hands. Some have been doing this for years. They know the levees by heart. They know which canals the snakes prefer. They know the look of a python's heat signature on a thermal screen and the way the mud settles when something heavy has just crossed it. After a burn, their job gets a little easier, but a lot more intense. In the thick, unburned marsh, a python is invisible. You could walk right past one and never know it was there. Its skin matches the shadows perfectly, breaking up its shape until it looks like nothing more than a fallen branch or a strip of bark. But on the black background of a fresh burn, a tan and brown snake stands out like a flashing sign. There is nowhere to hide. Every coil, every curve is visible against the burnt ground. A study by the U.S. Geological Survey used radio tracking to follow snakes before and after fires. They put transmitters inside the snakes to see what they did. The results were clear. After a fire, the snakes move. They travel almost 50% more than usual. They are restless. They are looking for new cover. They are looking for food. This movement is their downfall. Hunters patrol the levees and the edges of the burn zones. They scan the open ground. They look for the curve in the ash. In April 2025, after that burn in Palm Beach, sightings jumped by 15% in just 48 hours. That is a huge jump. It turns finding a needle in a haystack into finding a needle on a black table. But it is not just about eyes on the ground. The lack of cover allows for new technology. Drones with high-resolution cameras can fly over the burn zones. In the past, the grass blocked the view. Now the drone can spot a snake sunning itself on the black dirt from 300 feet in the air. We are also using EDNA, environmental DNA. Scientists take water samples from canals and ponds near the burn zones. When a python moves through water, it leaves tiny traces of genetic material, skin cells, mucus, waste. Those traces can be found in a lab, even when the snake itself is long gone. It tells them if snakes are in the area or have recently passed through. But the fire gives them the visual proof they need to go in and get them. The two methods work together. The EDNA tells you where to look. The burned ground lets you actually see what you are looking for. It is a grim business. Nobody enjoys killing animals, but everyone involved knows what is at stake. Every python removed is a win for the raccoon, the heron, and the deer. It is a win for the Everglades. The burn creates a short window of chance. It might only last a few weeks before the grass grows back. In Florida, things grow fast. The green shoots come up within days. By the second week, the stubble is already disappearing under a fresh carpet of growth. By the third week, the cover is back. By the fourth, a python could hide again. So, the hunters have to move fast. They have to strike while the ground is hot. Every day, the grass grows taller. The advantage shrinks. Every day they wait is a day the battlefield returns to the enemy's favor. The ghost in the grass. We have burned the grass. We have scorched the earth until it looks like the surface of a darker, angrier planet. We have caught the snakes, wrestling muscle and fury out of the mud. We tally the numbers. We celebrate the captured giant snakes. And we tell ourselves we are turning the tide. But deep in the humid quiet of the night, when the smoke clears and the stars reflect off the black water, a terrifying question hangs heavy in the air. Is it enough? Or are we just making them stronger? The Everglades is not just a swamp. It is a sprawling beast of 1.5 million acres. It is a maze of sawgrass and shadow. We are burning a tiny fraction of that. We are patrolling a tiny dot on a map. For every python we pull out of the ash, thrashing and hissing, how many are slipping away? How many are sliding quietly into the deep mangroves where the airboats cannot go and the fire cannot reach? Here is the dark theory that keeps the scientists up at night. We are not wiping out the pythons. We are selectively breeding them. Think about it. Evolution usually takes thousands of years, a slow grind of trial and error. But in the glades, we have hit the fast-forward button. By hunting the ones that are visible, the ones that sun themselves in the open on the levees, the ones that cross roads at dusk, the ones that hang around near buildings, we are removing the careless genes from the group. We're getting rid of the bold ones. The snakes that get caught are the snakes that made themselves catchable. What is left? The hiders, the shadows, the ones that stay away from the sound of an engine or the smell of gasoline. The ones that never cross a road, never sun themselves in the open, never show themselves to anything with eyes. We are watching the rise of a super python, and every season of hunting makes the population sharper. Hunters are already seeing strange behaviors. We are seeing snakes that are more careful, almost thinking things through. We are seeing them change when they move, only going out in the pitch black of the new moon when humans cannot see. Even night vision struggles against the thick plants. There are whispers of snakes adapting to the cold snaps, digging deeper into the limestone bedrock to survive freezes that should have killed them. But the wildest theory is about the fire itself. There is a worry that we are creating a generation of ash-adapted snakes. Nature changes to match the surroundings. It is one of the fastest changes in the animal kingdom. If we turn the Everglades black with planned burns season after season, will the pythons turn black to match? Are we choosing for a melanistic change? A snake as dark as charcoal that becomes invisible against the burnt earth. A predator you cannot see until you step on it. Dark versions already exist in other python populations around the world. The gene is there. All it takes is pressure from the environment to push it to the surface. And we might be giving exactly that pressure. They're also expanding. They're no longer just a problem for the deep swamp. They are moving north. They are following the chemical traces of people. There is a theory that they are using the canal systems, not just as homes but as highways, an underground road network leading them straight into the suburbs. They are showing up in backyards in Homestead, curled around pool pumps in Miami, found inside garages in neighborhoods that were farmland 10 years ago. Some think they are drawn to the warmth of buildings, the heat from air conditioning units, the cover under raised houses. If the pressure in the glades gets too high, if the fire becomes too frequent, the python population will not just die out. It will move. It will surge outward like a bursting dam, pushing into communities that have never dealt with a 12-foot constrictor in their swimming pool. The fire is a tool. It clears the board, but it is not a cure. And the battlefield itself is turning against us. The weather is changing. The seasons are breaking apart. The wet seasons are getting wetter, growing taller, thicker sawgrass that gives the snakes even better cover. The dry seasons are becoming oven-like, turning that same sawgrass into tinder so easy to burn that a single spark can outrun a fire crew. This makes every plan burn a roll of the dice. If the wind changes suddenly, if the peat soil, the literal flesh of the Everglades, catches fire, it does not just burn the surface. It burns downward. It eats the organic ground itself, destroying thousands of years of built-up history. That damage does not heal. The land managers are walking on a razor's edge. Burn too little, and the snakes take over the brush. Burn too much, and you risk an uncontrollable fire that sterilizes the earth and leaves nothing for anything to return to. And all the while, the enemy is watching the silent tomb and the genetic gamble. If the fire is our hammer, then science is trying to forge a scalpel. But the deeper we dive into the possible solutions, the more it sounds like science fiction or a horror story waiting to be written. The fire reveals the mystery, stripping away the grass to show the truth. And the truth is a landscape of silence. When you look at a healthy Everglades, you see a river of grass, but you hear a symphony. You hear the chatter of marsh rabbits, the splash of otter, the wild orchestra of wading birds. But when you look at a python-infested area, you see a beautiful green tomb. The silence is heavy. It is the sound of an ecosystem that has been eaten hollow. This silence has driven scientists to desperate measures. They are racing to unlock the genetic code of the invader. They are looking at gene drives, a terrifyingly powerful technology that could theoretically wipe out the species. The idea is to genetically change pythons to produce only male babies or to carry a deadly gene, then release them into the wild to breed. Over many generations, the changed genes would spread through the population until reproduction breaks down completely. It sounds perfect A biological smart bomb that targets one species and leaves everything else untouched. But the theories on how this could go wrong are the stuff of nightmares. What if a gene changes? Nature is messy. It rarely follows the code we write. Genes jump. They mix. They do things their designers never expected. There is a Jurassic Park fear here. Life finds a way. Could we accidentally create a sterile snake that does not reproduce but also does not die? A zombie group of snakes that lives for 40 years eating everything in its path with no drive other than hunger? These animals can survive for months without eating. A sterile python with no energy spent making babies could theoretically live even longer, eat even more, and grow even larger than its fertile counterparts. Or worse, the horizontal transfer theory. What if the genetic change jumps species? It is unlikely, but in the germ-filled soup of a tropical swamp, not impossible. What if the gene designed to kill the Burmese python jumped to the native indigo snake, to the rattlesnake, to the whole environment? We could set off a chain reaction of deaths that wipes out the very reptiles we are trying to save. Then there are the pheromone traps. We are trying to make the smell of a female python ready to mate. A chemical love song to lure the males out of the deep mangroves. But some think we might be ringing the dinner bell too loudly. Could these concentrated pheromones pull in pythons from hundreds of miles away? Could we be unknowingly pulling snakes from the edges into the heart of the Everglades, packing them in instead of spreading them out? We are throwing everything at the wall. Drones with thermal cameras, dogs trained to smell snake musk, rewards for catching them. But right now, fire is the only heavy weapon that gives visible results. It resets the clock. It gives the native animals a short, gasping moment to breathe, to run, to escape the coils. So the next time you see smoke rising over the horizon in South Florida, huge gray and black pillars blocking out the sun, do not think of destruction. Think of it as a spotlight. Think of it as a desperate, violent attempt to take back the wild from a monster that never should have been there. The grass will grow back. It always does. The sawgrass is ancient and stubborn. It has survived ice ages, hurricanes, and droughts that lasted decades. It will survive the fire. But the terrifying question remains. What will be hiding in it when it returns? Will it be the native wildlife, the bobcats and the deer, returning to their ancestral home? Or will it be the next generation of invaders, darker, smarter, and harder to find than anything we have faced before? We are fighting for every inch of muck and water. We are learning that sometimes to save a place, you have to let it burn. But as the flames die down and the smoke clears, the silence of the swamp feels different. It feels like it is waiting, not empty, watching. The war for the soul of the Everglades is far from over. In fact, the wild theories suggest it might just be the opening skirmish of a much stranger, darker battle. One where the enemy learns from every move we make, and the landscape itself becomes harder to control with each passing year. So, what do you think? Are we creating a monster we cannot control? Can we actually win this war against an enemy that evolves faster than we can reload? Or is Florida destined to belong to the snakes? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the dark future of the Glades, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories like this.